couple months ago. I'm pretty sure that was either a medical issue or suicide one. Just off.
Surprise.
Well, I think in any case, once prices go up, it's unlikely that they're going to come back down.
Right.
No, yeah. I don't know, eggs, I see eggs going up, eggs coming down.
Same with gas. I mean,
Yeah.
all sorts of supply and demand sorts of things, but I think in general, overall, oh, look at that. She brought me a gallon.
Yep. Overall, it's gonna stay up. Once it goes up to a certain level, it'll stay up. But then, like you said, eggs have gone up, gas has gone up and down. And then, but the eggs they had the bird flu, and that was that was one of the big issues that created that. Yeah,
Eggs had what, I'm sorry?
bird flu. So
Right.
the chickens had bird flu,
Oh, yeah,
and
they
they had to kill like 1 million chickens because of that flu.
Right.
And that automatically created a demand spike.
I tell you.
Or so.
Thanks, Obama. So, apparently we have a meeting here in 2 minutes.
Well, there's at least 4 of us, so
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we have enough. What, oh, okay. What happened?
Who said that?
Oh, that is so silly, isn't it?
It cracks me up.
Yeah, Kenny posted that. Did you see my response?
Yeah, that's what I was laughing about.
So, as I understand it, Kenny has applied for the vacant position on the board.
Has it?
I don't know who else has applied, but
Who?
Ken Jackwith. He is a pilot for Southwest.
Okay.
He used to own a beautiful bright red, what was it?
Pitch.
Pitts. Quite the acrobatic pilot. He gave my son a spin training for a CFI.
Okay.
And so he's done a little bit of part-time instructing at Gator Air.
Where are you again?
What town am I in?
I
don't
thought you
even
knew
know
what day
anymore.
it was.
Anyway, real nice guy.
Okay.
And so we'll see what the county commissioners say.
Foster Boxman got a job flying a Global 7000.
Who did? I'm sorry.
Foster Boxman. You never met him?
I don't think I know.
He's a,
Foster?
He was Foster Box. It was Bill Boxman's son.
Oh, okay.
I taught him to fly when he was 14.
Wow, very nice, very
And
nice.
he's a past U.S. Air Battle champion.
Todd, we don't need to wait. Although, we probably should hand out copies of the agenda and all that. Well, morning.
No,
It is morning somewhere in the world,
Yes,
thank you
that's
very
right.
much.
My husband says good morning all the time. Is this okay if I sit here?
You know, the fun part is, Rachel, even at night, I would, when welcoming passengers on board, I would say, good morning,
Okay.
and
Yeah,
half of them
that's
would
me, all right.
literally say
Thank you.
good morning without even giving it a second thought and walk
They
on
do to
by.
my husband.
And then some of them would turn around and say, well, wait a minute. Captain, are you sure you're okay? Yes, I'm fine, just kidding.
Hey, Todd.
Captain, is this a short flight, please?
Well, no, I just woke up from a 10-hour sleep, so I'm perfectly ready to go.
We'll have to do this after. I think I do, or I may have
Kind
dropped
of,
them off.
I gotta
to the
look at
FBO.
everybody's name and see their faces.
Either way, I owe you for them, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Now that we know who everybody is,
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I gotta remember everybody's names.
my apologies for the tardiness of this board. We like to run a tight ship here. But as you can see, we barely have a quorum, so without further ado, I hereby call this meeting to order. Thank you very much for coming, ladies and gentlemen, and Todd and Rachel.
Yes.
See what I did there? If you would not mind standing and joining me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving and is getting ready to have a wonderful Christmas. We are going out to buy our tree today, finally. We're very late this year. Has anybody else noticed the lack of little private tree vendors this year? We've been driving all around Citrus County. We cannot find a tree. We're gonna have to go to like Lowe's or something like that. Ugh.
All the farms got destroyed from Helene,
Yeah,
Is that what it is?
in North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Oh,
I saw
hadn't
where
even
in
thought of that.
California, they have trees from like $1,000 to $2,000. They're selling them, real trees.
Wow.
Time to dress up that magnolia you have.
Yeah, or maybe bring in a palmetto or something.
Yeah.
Roll call.
Who all do we have today here?
Today we have Carl Flanagan,
Present.
Heiko Kallenbach,
Here.
Charles Carr,
Here.
and Mark Klingel.
Yeah.
And Rachel Harrell and Todd Regan.
Thank you very much. Members of the board, have you had a chance to review last month's month's minutes? Anybody have any discussion, any objections?
Yep.
I move that we approve.
Thank you, so moved,
Second.
so seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Meeting minutes from last month are approved.
Who seconded?
One of these two.
Mark, okay.
Yeah.
At this point, does anybody from the public have anything that they'd like to say, other than Alex? Nothing at all? Okay, all right. I see that we have no new business
Correct.
to discuss. Okay, nothing new at all. Old business.
All right, so the power lines for West Penn Street, I'm still in contact with Duke. They're just getting us on their schedule. As soon as that happens, they'll pick up the parts and get to work. Shouldn't take long. But that's it.
Cool. Are they pretty?
Pretty, shiny, and new.
I love it.
Yes.
Nothing better than shiny new orange globes.
Okay.
Runway 29 GPS approach.
No new updates.
Still coming, still waiting on the Aegis for the LP and LP,
That's correct.
right, LPV men's. Okay. Airport minimum standards and regulations. May I suggest,
Heiko. I'm sorry, go ahead. Finish your thought, I'm sorry.
may I suggest that we put off Alex's presentation until the presentation section? You okay with that, Alex?
That was my plan.
Good.
We're on the
Power
same,
through
we're on the
this.
same page.
We'll power through this now and then leave plenty of time for Alex to do his thing.
Perfect.
All right. Inverness Fire Station?
Even though I'm not the lead for this project, it is going to be on the airport. So the beginning design stages have begun, And the area that we're considering is the north part of the airport. If anyone knows where the north vehicle gate is at, around that area, those 3 brown hangars, just off from that area. Place is being surveyed and starting to look at some plans here and there, and that's just the beginning of it.
Very cool. Do we have any sort of an estimate as to when we'll break ground on that?
Right now, we just have funding for design.
Okay. Very good, thank you. Hangars?
Hangars, 16 T hangars, there's 3 vacancy and 30 waiting. At Crystal River, there's 20 T hangars, 1 vacancy, 30 waiting. And at Crystal River, 2 box hangars, 0 vacancy, 5 are waiting. And I'd like to make a courtesy reminder about fees. On all counts with the county regarding hangar rentals that are late on payments, we will receive a fee. Also, if you've paid for a key deposit, you'll get that key deposit back upon leaving if the keys are returned. If you want additional keys, that arrangement can be made, and it's right now I believe it should be in the lease for $25. But read the lease, but that's what it should be for a key deposit.
Have all of the current tenants been brought over to the new lease agreement?
Not unless they want to sign it, until their lease expires. We'll stay with the lease that we've signed.
Okay. And so let's say that I've got a hangar and my lease is due to expire in 6 months. Were I to sign a new lease agreement now, what would change for my circumstances? Would my rent change? Would the rules under which I'm renting change?
I'd have to compare both leases, but yeah, there is gonna be some changes.
Okay. Or more to the point, if I don't yet sign it, does that mean I'm under the old rules and old rent and not yet under the new rules and new rent?
Yes, the lease that we are currently on, let's say, but if it was gonna expire in 6 months, we're gonna stick with that lease until it expires. You'll be held, and we will be held with those same terms.
Gotcha. All right, thank you.
So,
Yes, sir.
on piggyback, that is, all right, so there's new rules out there, right? Or not?
Well, the rules and regulations, minimum operating, we're going through that now. But
Okay.
if you're talking about the lease,
Yeah,
okay.
the new rules, the new
Lease.
leases will have rules and, or the new rules, right?
New terms.
I know, new terms, but are there gonna be any new rules?
Well, with these rules and regulations, it'll be baked in or referred to these rules and regulations, minimum operating standards. The lease will reflect that.
Okay, I guess to my point is, I'm just looking at that with the current leases that are out there.
Uh-huh.
You know, if we have made changes to rules, like you said, they're on the old lease, is it applicable to them or not because they haven't signed a new lease? Adherence-wise.
It's a great question. What we are going to be talking about later will emphasize that and include that. Does that answer your question?
Kind of, sort of. What I'm looking at is that with the new rules and everything, if there's no major differences or nuances, okay, I'm fine with that. If there's new rules and regulations that have a little bit more of an impact, yet we have those people under the old rules and leases, they're not having to adhere to these new ones yet. Is there is there a potential
I see what you're saying.
concern?
Well, not really.
Okay,
Not really.
okay,
No, we'll still hold with the lease that they've signed, and then either one or the new one
Yeah.
will still follow these rules.
okay, that's good.
As a point of clarification, it seems to me as though the hangar leases have some certain terms, like what you do with a hangar, what you can't do with a hangar, and so on. But it also has sort of a blanket statement. You have to adhere to whatever rules and regulations apply to the airport as a whole. And so these rules and regulations will apply to the airport as a whole, and therefore impose those requirements on anybody that's got a hangar. whereas maybe some in particular term that's just specific to a hangar rental won't be in place until they go over to the new lease. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah,
Okay, that's what I wanted, is as a catch-all, that if they're updated, they still adhere to the new rules too.
yes, yeah,
I'm good.
good.
Good, thank you. Anybody else? Do we have anything at all from the Board of County Commissioners?
No,
The window of applying for my position, for Mark's position, and for the open position is closed.
correct.
And I assume there's gonna come a point in time at which the Board of County Commissioners will consider the applicants. Do we know when that is?
No, I have to do that. I gotta put in an agenda item. I think I just got one of them just last week. Somebody's I got. So I have two that were, I don't have the dates, who's coming up. I know you are, and I think one of the.
Mark and
children-
I
Mark,
are.
okay, so I have yours, and there was one other person that I think was going for,
Barry.
Yeah, Barry's the name. Oh, there he is. Yeah.
Okay.
So I will put those in and put it in an agenda. I just haven't done that yet.
Okay, so do we have at least one applicant for each of the positions? District 3, what district are you?
Two.
Two, and the at-large
And you're
position?
three, and so I think the only vacancy was the at-large position, which Barry was applying for.
Okay,
So you know, we're just gonna reinstate you guys, assuming that's what they do, but reinstate you guys, and then he'll fill the vacant
you
position.
never know what these commissioners will do.
That's why I say,
We might make Barry represent all 3 seats. And then you'll have to buy the donuts. Fair enough, fair enough. All right, thank you. Major projects.
All right, Crystal River Runway Extension, the work authorization was recently approved by BOCC on December 10th. More to follow. Yeah,
Found anybody to replace these fuel tanks yet?
no, we're still waiting to rebid.
All right. We have not yet rebid.
Correct.
Okay. What kind of a time frame are these fuel, I mean, are we gonna explode here any day now? Or do we really have some time?
On how long and old the fuel tanks are, they are pretty old, they're over 30 years old.
Okay.
But they need to be replaced, and that's why we're going out to bid, so sooner than later.
Yeah, okay.
Well, so I'm trying to sense, is there an urgency to this now or not? Because it hadn't gone out to bid yet, but yet it's been ongoing.
It's in the queue to be processed and get out into bid. We had to get another piece of design for the fuel farm. There's a piece of information that wasn't clarified. We clarified that. And then on the first bid, we didn't receive any bidders, so now that we have basically going out there and try to re-advertise and try to get more interested parties, broaden our search.
But was there any reason given that why they didn't bid?
Nope.
Because usually when I was in contracting, I would, if I got no bids for something, I kind of went back to the people and said, why, could you give me any information as to why you didn't bid? Some people said, hey, we just didn't have the capacity, or we didn't have something, but at least kind of get a little idea, or it was gonna be too low a bid.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we did not receive any feedback. There were, people present for the pre-application meeting, but that was it.
And I assume the county did not reach out to these non-bidders to ask them why they didn't bid.
I can find out, but I don't know.
Yeah. Does the county say, this is what we're willing to pay? Would anybody be willing to do this work for this amount of money? Or does the county simply say, here's some work, let us know what you'd like for it? Do you know?
Yes, we provide the important information about the job, the plans, and the scope, and try to be transparent. And either a company, whatever the reason why they don't want to or bid on it is up to them. I just don't know.
So with that being said, can we not somehow or another have whoever handles the RFPs to reach back out as ongoing, so that you can at least get some information back as to understand the why, so that whenever they're looking at the RFP process, that would help guide them as well? I mean, you know, if they don't have the capacity, say it. You know, if the RFP is too low, then, you know, they want the larger projects, which is gonna pay them more. They may say, no, it's too small for us to handle type thing.
That very well could be a possibility. I can bring a horse to water,
Okay?
so, but I can find out to see if there's, I can follow up.
I think it's important for us to understand
Sure.
what the headwinds you're encountering. So that, you know, advocates is gonna push this over the top.
Carlton Hall, interim public works director. So working with Todd on some of this, I noticed that there were some key details for this project that were unknown. And it was kind of left up to the bidders to get the information needed as far as how high the electrical platform needed to be elevated. So there was details I don't think that they wanted to spend their dollars on to get the information to be able to turn a bid in. So those are the kind of things we identified. That's the additional information we included in the rebid package. So hopefully they're not backing away or scared. In addition, usually on county projects, we have a budget. So we know how much money we've allocated for this project, and that is disclosed to the bidders.
That is disclosed.
It is,
It is.
and in most cases, they come in higher than our budget. And it's not limited to that budget. They can turn in a number of whatever they deem they need, and then the county can make the decision of whether they want to add additional funds for the project.
And in this case, just nobody even bothered doing that, apparently.
Adding money?
Yeah.
Well, we didn't get any bids, so it's kind of
Right,
hard to know
right,
what we
yeah.
need. So we're sticking with the budget as is, just gonna wait for the feedback we get once it goes back out to bid.
Gotcha.
And that's not unusual. Everything has doubled and tripled in price in the last 5 years. So,
All right, well, thank you.
you're welcome.
Aegis survey?
We received the final grant from FDOT this time, not FAA. Our aviation attorney is reviewing them, and our next step after that, if everything's fine, we'll start to create a budget, and then it'll go to BOCC for approval.
Wonderful. Emeritus Business Park?
Phase one has been complete. The last thing we need to do is wrap up the DRA with SwiftMud and get that operational. We're diligently working with that with our consultant. Phase two, we're also discussing with our consultant on design repackage.
Any idea when that would be done?
The repackaging, sooner than later. I'm hoping by next month.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Corporate hangar?
We're still discussing lease terms and reviewing plans, and our attorney, aviation attorney, is drafting a new lease. I should have that by Friday. And as soon as I get that, then I'll have 30% design plans and then the lease terms ready to go.
And do we have a particular tenant committed in mind, generally interested? Where are we with that?
Yes, I think there are potentials, yes.
Okay. Just potentials at this point.
Correct.
Got it. Emeritus Master Plan?
I received the final grant from FDOT. Our aviation attorney is reviewing that as well. And just like the Aegis survey, our next step is to create a budget and then BOCC approval.
AWAS replacement?
Received the final grant from FDOT. Aviation attorney is reviewing. Next step is to create a budget and then BOCC approval.
Why do I keep starting to spell FDOT with a P? I've done this twice in a row now.
I cannot help you, sir.
Great. Okay. Minor reports.
Minor projects is our vault and generator that just got wrapped up yesterday. So that vault, our electrical vault, was in a sinkhole. They mitigated that about a couple years ago, and now it's time to fix the actual structures themselves. We raised the vault about 4 inches on the southern side of the building. So it's plumb now versus it was kind of sunk into the ground. Now it's raised up. So it's a good job. They did it in 3 days.
So that's not the thing that they put up on the platform on the north side of the building?
No,
The vault is down there on the right-hand side of runway 27.
Oh, way down there,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah, north side of the airport, there's a little blue building and a generator behind it. Yeah.
Gotcha. And that is the generator that runs that powers the runway,
Absolutely.
the lights
Yep,
and all
all
of
the
that.
navigational agent,
Whereas what's by the building is what powers the building.
correct.
Sometimes it just takes a few minutes for me to
Just gotta talk it out.
figure it all out.
That's what I do.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. That's it.
All right. Do we have anybody that would like to present anything today? So this is a gentleman, Alex Volka from ICE, and he is here to talk about the airport rules, regulations, minimum operating standards, this project that they've been developing, the set of rules. And I don't want to take too much of your thunder, so tell us what you've been up to.
Thank you, thank you. Good afternoon. As you said, my name's Alex Vaca. I'm a senior aviation planner with Infrastructure Consulting and Engineering. You've had the opportunity to work with Daniel Elsey for quite some time now. He is also in our Tampa office alongside our planning and engineering. So you're starting to see different divisions within our company come through. A lot of engineering work has occurred so far, but we've also done planning work in our section behind the scenes for some hangar siting. When you guys are building corporate hangars, there's a lot of involvement that kind of bleeds over across the different sections. But now that you're starting to do direct planning projects, I'll be a lot more involved, which is exciting for me, and it's great to get out and meet everyone. And between this project and the airport master plan project that should be starting in the next few months, we'll probably be seeing quite a bit of each other over the next year as we map out the future of the Inverness Airport and where it could potentially go. So that's an exciting one that we're looking forward to. Today, I have the Airport Rules and Regulations and Minimum Operating Standards project. There's been some discussion over the last month or two since the project has started. I think you've heard that we started doing some of the initial investigation for this project and making sure we really understand the idiosyncrasies of these airports. They're unique, every single one. And so you have to really get into the trenches and learn the ins and outs of who's there, who's operating, how many aircraft, what types of hangars. So that's been fun. We've been doing that the last couple months. The objective of this presentation is going to be to take you through the entire project. We'll kind of go once over the top, and then we'll start to dig in a little bit. As last month, I know there were some questions about the substantial questions like what content, what are we going to get? You kind of want to sink your teeth into the project. So we'll have the opportunity to do that today and then look at where are we going next over the next few months, the approval processes and review processes. So I'll take you through it now. As we go through each slide, I'll just kind of talk about the project. So next slide, if there's someone that can do it. Is it clicker? Oh, cool, I can do it. All right, boom. Okay, so I covered most of this. We broke the project into 6 phases, and I'll take you through those, the overview and outline. So we're talking about what are rules and regs and minimum standards, what the outline of the actual documents will be, a schedule for the project, and then answer any questions you have left. So here are the 6 phases of this project. We're currently on phase number 3. As I mentioned, the first one is kicking things off with Citrus County government. So you say, all right, we're starting. Here's what the project looks like. Here's the timeline. So they got a preliminary, Todd and his staff got a preliminary review of what we're talking about today. Here's how we're going to tackle it. You know, we're going to get out there, boots on the ground on phase 2, meet the FBOs, any other commercial operators, and start to understand the complexities of each airport. We're now in phase 3, document development. So that starts with an outline of each document for each airport. And then as we're going through the particulars, meeting with Todd and other Citrus County staff to talk about where we want to line things up. There are some decisions to be made as far as the level of enforcement and the level of rules and the level of minimum standards. How many people have to work at each commercial operation? What size lease space? How many hangars? If one, what square footage? So there's some particulars to be determined through this development phase. So we'll work through that, and we have been in December and in January, and ultimately we'll deliver a draft document to the county for legal review. And we're going to get a little bit more detailed into the schedule, but that's basically where we're at right now. As we move past the delivery of the draft document, now we're looking at editing and getting comments and feedback. We have an email box that's set up. It's cgc-inf comments@ice-eng.com. There's an important phase of this project, which is to gather stakeholder feedback. We can't develop this in a vacuum. It's got to have everybody on board, and there has to be a period for everyone involved at both airports to see what's coming and to have a chance to be a part of it. So that's an important phase 4 that will be forthcoming. That phase is likely going to be around February and March, potentially even into April. Things can slide a little bit depending on how long it takes us to develop the document, which relies on feedback from the county. And so we're going to do our best to be proactive and get this project moving, but with the pace that provides a quality instrument that's not forced. So that's the plan. So there will be a presentation to the AAB. That'll be the next time that I'm back in front of everyone here. My plan for that phase will be to deliver a draft set of documents that the county has already legally reviewed. It'll make it to the board and to the public if it's posted on their website, however they like to deliver it electronically. In advance of the March AAB meeting is what we're planning for now. When I attend the AAB meeting in March, my goal will be to stand in the same position and provide an overview of those documents, highlighting some of the key particulars, something that maybe not highlighting ones that most people would agree is common sense rules, but maybe more that could be controversial or would be more of a focus of interest for people. So we'll go through that in the March AAB is the plan. And again, if that needs to shift, we'll keep everyone updated. Once we feel we have the comments back, we review all of them and decide whether to incorporate them or not. Those will be anonymous, by the way, and they'll be in an Excel spreadsheet that we'll develop, and we'll decide what action will be taken, and that'll also be documented. We will get to a point where we have a final draft document. That will lead us into phase 5, where we start to have FAA and FDOT review. These entities review the documents in different ways. The FAA is looking for grant assurance compliance, and the FDOT is looking at statutes and more along the lines of state laws, regulations, making sure that nothing is in contradiction to what they have in place. They will offer back comments to us, potentially, or none, and we will make adjustments as necessary at that point, in which case we will final document stamp and say we feel confident that we have what we need and deliver that over to Todd. And some of the discussion today will be what happens in phase 6, which is the approval process. There are a few different avenues that we will talk about today on approval. For example, it can be adopted as an ordinance to the county, which has one enforcement method, which kind of is housed under a typical ordinance violation. If you park in the wrong place and there's an ordinance against that, you get cited, that kind of thing. It can be under that category. Or it can be approved simply as an airport rules document, in which case the airport would have the enforcement authority, which typically, if they're a leaseholder, would be a notice of violation to one of the rules, followed by a period to remedy that, or a warning system, depending on the severity of the violation. If it's egregious, maybe the lease is terminated immediately. So there's 2 ways to approach the enforcement piece, and that's kind of some of the discussions that we'll have to have with Citrus County staff to see how they want to handle that. So what are airport rules? Well, we know that all of these basic subject areas are a big part of it. In simple terms, it's making sure everybody does the right thing while they're out there. They're safe, the airport's running smoothly, it's the welfare of the traveling public, all the tenants and the residents. Most of the rules are abided by every day, and we don't even think about it. But it's important that the airport has them documented in case there are opportunities or instances where someone is doing something that is not appropriate for operation at the airport. And that document provides the legs to thus enforce and penalize that person. So the other important part of the rules and regs is underlined here. Not every user of the airport has a lease agreement with the county. And one nice thing about having airport rules and regs is you can placard the airport that says every person that enters this facility agrees to follow the rules and regulations and minimum operating standards, and thus could be trespassed or other actions negative to them, even though they may not have a lease. So it kind of gives the opportunity for the county to have enforcement to everyone. And that's another benefit of the process. These are some sample areas, but we're going to talk a little bit more about what's the content of this document will look like. Minimum standards overview. This is different. This is focused on commercial activity. Really, the best way to highlight this is you want to protect that second line on the right. Protect the level and quality of services offered to the public. So we're saying, what is Citrus County willing to accept out there? A containerized shed or a multi-million-dollar facility, or somewhere in between, like the Taj Mahal or the simplest of facilities for a commercial operator? Where do we want to fall? And that, what I think most when I think about this is, if Crystal Aero Group or Wright Rudder has everything set up and we met them and we established the minimum standards at where they are today, that would prevent anyone operating less than what they have and being undercut potentially by someone that's operating with the very simplest of facilities and the very simplest of number of personnel and aircraft. So it is protection for your existing commercial operators to put this into place. There was some discussion about the potential of raising the minimum standards above what your existing operators are, thus forcing them to encumber facilities and personnel and training. And I think of course that's a possibility, but for our company and for Citrus County, we've talked a lot about this in the preliminary phases. If everything is working and everybody's operating like they have been, why don't we set the minimum standard right where everybody's at? Now, we want to, of course, look across the board at industry standards and make sure nothing like insurance requirements, everything has to be at a certain level to match the industry, that where there's no glaring gaps. But I think for the most part, our goal is to go ahead and lock in the minimum standards where they are today, according to the current FBOs and other commercial operators, so that no one comes in lower than where we are. You can exceed the minimum standards, but that's where we stand today. And that, I think, so far as I've been looking through the lease agreements with Citrus County, with Todd and others, I think everything's looking great. One of the questions that you were talking about earlier had to do with rules and regs, and I decided not to jump in, but I did want to comment on that. All the lease agreements that I've read, the T-hanger, ground lease, commercial operator lease, all of them say that they have to follow the rules and regulations, laws, federal, state, and local. So I think if they're amended from time to time, they're still have to abide by those at all levels of government. So I think everyone would still be good through that. The other point that was kind of brought up loosely was what takes precedent, the airport rules and minimum standards or the lease agreement that the tenant has. Typically, the lease agreement is the holding document. The lease agreement refers that you have to follow the rules, refers that you have to follow the minimum standards. But if there's anything extra in there, that's the one that takes precedent over the other two. One thing that I will say is, with that being said, the rules are referenced in all of the lease agreements that I've seen, but not airport minimum standards, which I think is because they don't exist as far as the level that we're about to institute here. So that will, I can already tell, will be a recommendation that we institute that. For the non-commercial leases, it's just going to say you can't perform commercial operations. And that already does say that. But for commercial leases, it says, you know, you must follow the minimum operating standards to perform a service here. Okay, outline. All right, so I put in the high-level chapters that we're looking at for rules and regs, but I have a more detailed list in front of me. I just didn't want to make the slide be crazy. So purpose and authority. That's going to say these are the rules. This is who they're applicable to, everybody that's there operating. It has the sponsor's authority. So by the authority vested in ordinance 24-this is why you have to follow these, or by the BOCC's approval on this date. And then the airport manager is the designated representative for the authority. So he or she, in this case he, will be the enforcer of these rules. And any amendments to the rules and regulations, there's a process that's in place, and I'll give you a little snippet of that. What we have to date is a policy letter can be instituted for immediate changes that are necessary to the rules, but then must be adopted into the rules at some certain point. And that's so that, Todd, if there's something that pops up and, you don't want them doing donuts around, something comes up and you're like, okay, we got to shut that down. Todd can release a policy letter, and then 3 months, if that's what it takes to cycle through the BOCC's approval process or whatever time, changes can be made. And you may want to lump several policy letters into one and then make one change it quarterly or some. There's a lot of flexibility, but just want to give you an idea of some of the language that is involved in each one of these chapters. General regulations. This is saying, for instance, restricted areas. Airport should be considered a restricted area. You're looking at entry for those that only have a need to be there. It has to do with, if you've probably seen a lot of airports, making sure the gate closes behind you, keeping an eye out. If you do see suspicious activity, who to report it to, and unauthorized use of the property. So it's kind of general rules for everybody to keep in mind while they're out there. Personal conduct, okay? Some of the categories in this: smoking, distances away from fuel farms and aircraft that are running, makes sense. Consumption of alcohol and disorderly conduct, clothing and attire requirements. One that I find, there's littering, but the next one, animals. I have seen this at several different airports, dogs running loose on leashes, without leashes and stuff. And that kind of gets me because it's scary that they could run out and into the way of aircraft and stuff. So there's some rules that are like, I really believe in, and that's one of them, just throwing it out there. Camping is one. The county has to decide whether they would like to allow camping or not. That could be camping full time, year round, and maybe it's event driven only, but you can see as you go through the list, there are some where you kind of have to make some decisions customized to the airport and what you're willing to allow. Aircraft operations section. This one is generally not about taking anything from the airspace. The FAA has got traffic patterns, approaches, downwinds, they got all that figured out. Aircraft operation in this sense is handling the aircraft on the ground. And it has to do with denying use of anyone interfering with aircraft tampering, taxiing, takeoffs and landings, being responsible with your aircraft basically, dropping items from the aircraft. There's rules about that in the FARs, but there's still there's a mention of that in here. One thing that's really important in this section that Todd may need to invoke, and I've had to do this in the past, is the disabled and derelict aircraft. So a little bit about me. I've been with ICE for 2 years, but before that I managed Winter Haven Airport in Polk County for 5 years. I was the airport director there, and then before that the airport manager in Lake Wales. And I've had some derelict aircraft and I've had to go through the process of following Florida statute, placarding it, and doing an official search of who owns it. All that needs to be outlined for Todd in his rules so that he and everyone knows the process of how to remove an aircraft if it's been there abandoned. And then motor vehicles, okay, pretty common sense on the motor vehicles, driving carefully. The motor vehicle section can be as detailed as you like, and I mean that as in, if you've been to a Part 139 airport, you've seen driver training requirements. I don't suspect that to be the case here, but there could be some level of, you have to look at a PowerPoint of the airport layout and where you're allowed to drive, or there could be some level of motor vehicle training. It's up to the airport, or up to Todd, rather, and Citrus County to decide who's allowed to operate on the airport, what areas you're allowed to drive on. Do you have to have overhead lights? What speed can you travel? That kind of thing. Vehicle parking is important. That's also can be an instance where you're blocking taxiways if you're at the T-hangar areas and you get too close to some of the drives, or you can double park and airplanes can't get through, that kind of thing. Hazards, fire safety, and environmental protection. So this has to do with storing flammables, painting. Painting in T-hangars is really bad. If you've ever seen that, it goes up and over the walls and into other bays. So there's rules preventing that. How to respond to spills. Fire extinguishers, having those where they should be, and following all environmental laws. So it's kind of covering that arena. And then the enforcement and penalty section. So this is where we're talking about if you're doing something against the rules, you may be issued a cease and desist letter in contradiction to your lease with, this is your final warning, or the steps that are taken from there. In this enforcement and penalty section, there's also, it kind of works both ways. There's ways to appeal from the customer side. There's ways to appeal this violation. And there's a process described on what happens if you want to appeal and who the next level up would be to make a final determination. Okay. Minimum operating standards. This one is a little bit, I think, more straightforward. And I say that because it doesn't look that way because there's 18 sections. But each one of the sections is sort of a different category with the same idea. So I'll just start at the beginning. Violations and penalties. So we're talking about what happens if you don't follow the minimum operating standards and what, first violation, how remedy periods, that kind of thing. The general requirement section is what applies to everyone. Okay, so everyone has to have a leased premises. Everyone is not allowed to have through the fence operations. Everyone, I'm just kind of giving some examples. If you want to put signage on a building, you have to request it. This is commercial operations if you're thinking in your mind, so a lot of commercial operators put their logos on the buildings and such. Once you start to get into the individual operations like FBO, self-fueling, and all of flight training, aircraft rental, every category is essentially very much the same from one to the other, and it goes in the same order. The leased premise requirements, so they have to have a building, office building with this square footage, and it has to have restrooms and telephone. And they have to have a hangar at this square footage. They have to have 2 staff, 1 aircraft, 3,000 square feet of apron space. I'm making it up, but just to give you an idea. And those specifics are tailored to every single different operation. This is where it's important for us as a company to go out and meet the existing commercial operators so that we understand what they have today and we can customize it to them, especially the insurance requirements. That's one topic that is of importance because it's dollars and cents on how much insurance coverage is required. So we're taking a very close look at what the existing requirements are and seeing if they're industry competitive with everybody else and if there's any changes that need to be made. Other than that, I think this speaks for itself. There's only one exception. If you want to perform multiple services, because, for example, a lot of FBOs will have flight training and rental, aircraft rental, and they'll do maintenance. There is some caveats that say that not every one of these requirements is cumulative. So if the requirements for one don't have to be added, and next thing you know, you have to have the Taj Mahal. You can have some shared space amongst different services. So I'll just put that out there. I want to talk about a couple things at the end. So non-tenant emergency business permit, number 17. This actually came up in a conversation with Wright Rudder, that they've had a situation like this. And I've seen it before for me too at my airport. So a non-tenant emergency business permit is something that we developed. And it's basically a process to authorize a business to operate temporarily. An example of this might be a disabled aircraft from off airport lands at Inverness, and it needs to be repaired. I think ideally you would want the base maintenance facility to repair it so that Inverness gets the work. If they cannot perform the work or do not want to, or the person doesn't want them to, or it's a specialized service that they don't provide, like the propeller needs to be weight and balance or change. If there's circumstances that wouldn't allow it to be repaired by the existing businesses, one could fill out an abbreviated permit application like this that says the business's name, their insurance, what they want to do, how long it's going to take, and provide that to Citrus County staff, and they could process it and authorize it. It just gives an out so that they don't have to go through an entire lease agreement process to operate on the airport, but also allows Citrus County to ensure that they have the proper licensure, insurance, and everything to get the job done and get them out the door. One other thing, so the second thing I want to highlight is the business operator application, which is Appendix C. So this is basically like a job application for commercial operators that want to come to Inverness and Crystal River. It formalizes what they have to tell the airport. For example, I am Alex Vaca. I have a flight school. I've been in business 10 years. I have 7 employees and 6 aircraft, and my insurance, like it's a job application. And you're telling the county, it's almost like a business proposal and a business plan. I'm telling the county, if you allow me to lease your facilities or let me build a facility, I can run a really solid business here. So we iron that out so that it can be used for anyone that applies. And then that Appendix D is the application that I talked about for the non-tenant emergency business permit. Okay. Let me take a pause and just see if there's any questions to this point before we go into the schedule.
That last one, just thinking about it, would that allow a third party to set up a business on the airport in competition with the existing leasee or the FBO?
No, that's very important, and that is a really good question. No, there's a reason we worded it the way we did. I just went back a slide. The word emergency is critical there. It is for a limited duration, special scenario, something like the disabled aircraft scenario. They cannot come in and operate for a year or 6 months. And the other thing is, these are subject to approval. If, one thing that I don't like, and is exactly what you're saying, I don't want someone to come in a van and undercut all the overhead that my base businesses have. That's not fair. And there is a fee to this permit too, by the way. It's the county has the opportunity to collect some funds from this because they're not otherwise getting anything from the business coming onto the field. But if they're driving their van on to work on something. So this, I agree with you, this needs to be well maintained so that it's not giving away, something that would be perceived as unfair but it does provide an out in case there is a unique circumstance where a business needs to come on.
How about a new business on the airport that does not compete with the FBO?
Now, that's a good question. You're right. So that is an option. That is not something we're talking about, but I know what you're saying.
But
They're called transient business operators. And I have seen, so this is a totally different conversation, but there are such a thing as a transient business operators. An example of that would be an aircraft washing company. You may not need an aircraft washing company every day, and they couldn't sustain a building, all the requirements of it. And they may hop from one airport to another and wash airplanes on appointment, need-by-need basis. So that is another program that the county could take on if they would like to, that could have its own set of rules, but that is not applied in the document so far.
Yeah, we had a individual who came to the airport with a helicopter for the purpose of giving air rides around Kings Bay, and it was deemed at that time the purview of the existing leasee, who was Tom Davis, as to whether or not he would allow that particular operation. So I'm wondering how the rules and regulations are going to handle that.
I will write that down. It's a good question, and I think I'll probably want to talk with staff to see how how everybody feels about that, and maybe even from how the rest of the committee feels about that. But
And that's just an example. We've had that same sort of thing several times.
there are some unique instances where that is a good idea. I've also seen some that are not so good, where like a propeller company comes in, next thing you know, they're taking propellers off on the ramp, and they're doing all sorts of, it's kind of, there's some services that are good for that and some that may not be good for that.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else?
Okay, great. So, project schedule. One thing that I was a takeaway for me from the last AAB meeting was, whoa, let's not, fly through this. This is important. We want to make sure we have time to review it, and the public has time to review it. And I just want to assure you, I think the schedule that we have now is comfortable, but there is flexibility here if we need to shift left or right. So here's what we have. I'm planning to work with Citrus County staff through this month and as much as we need in January to develop the draft document set. One note that I'm going to say about the draft documents. Right now, and up until this point, we have assumed that we're going to make 2 completely individual sets, one for each airport. As we go through this document, particularly the rules in my mind, if there are no differences between the rules, I would suggest that we don't make 2 sets of documents that are identical. Or, like common sense would say, let's just make 1 set of rules if we can't find anything so substantial that they need to be different. So I just throw it out there to say, we're gonna use common sense when we go through this. If there needs to be 2 sets for the rules, we'll make 2 sets. If there needs to be 2 sets for the standards, we'll do the same. And so I just wanna throw that out there to you now. But ultimately, we will deliver a draft set, that's our goal, in January. And we wanna give time for the aviation attorney to review it. They have to take a first shot at it and give us any feedback that they have. And then I think at that point, it'll be ready to present to the AAB. You can tell there's a delay there. So if the attorney approves it at the end or beginning, middle of February, we're still not meeting until March. So as soon as we get a stamp from them, I say it's delivered to everyone, stakeholders, posted publicly. And that way you have a little sneak peek into it before I come here in March and provide a presentation about it. And then I think after the presentation, we can start the clock on a comment period. The comment period is kind of tricky. I feel like if you float it out there 4, 5, 6 weeks, it starts to get people who are like, forget about it almost. You kind of have to make it 3. You could make it 4. 2 seems a little short because each one of these documents is going to be 30 to 40 pages probably. So it does take a little bit of time to go through them. But that's what we have right now. And I say that in case you have any suggestions, but I think that would be appropriate. And if we felt like it wasn't, we could always extend it further. So there'll be a revision period, and I kind of talked about how that will work already. The comments will be received anonymously through that mailbox that we developed. They can also be turned in physically. If some people would prefer to do it by paper, they could be turned in to Todd or another method, and we can collect them that way. But no matter what, we want to make sure everybody gets a chance to have some input on these. And then we'll summarize the comments into an Excel spreadsheet with actions taken on each one. And then we will have a draft document that we can deliver to the FAA and FDOT. And then the rest of the schedule is really dependent on how quickly we can get those comments back from each party and get the final edits in. And I think there's going to have to be some internal discussion more about the approval process. Seems to me that no matter what, the documents are going to go to the BOCC. I think it'll be a determination on the attorney and the county administrator of how they want to adopt them. Whether, in the beginning we were talking about whether it would be in an ordinance or just a standalone document approval, which I think either way still has teeth. It still is enacted. It's just a different avenue of if a rule is violated, how do we enforce it? That's me. One thing I didn't tell you about me is before the airports, I was a Black Hawk pilot in the Army for 9.5 years. I've got a little over 1,000 flight hours, 2 deployments to Kosovo and Iraq. So I've got a little bit from the pilot seat and a little bit from the airport management seat. Now I'm doing aviation planning. It's a pleasure to be here and work with you and with the county. And I'm excited to see this project and the master plan, what we can really do with these opportunities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex.
Very nicely done. Any tower updates? Todd?
No,
Airport security concerns?
no.
Board communication? I suppose they're going to get with us at some point, let us know who they've selected to sit on the board
Yes. Yeah.
at some point.
Maybe.
If you don't mind, Rachel, when you find out when that is, which meeting, which
Yeah, I'll have to
meeting
look at the
agenda that will be on?
Yeah, I'll have to look at the deadlines, either January, one of the ones in January.
Okay.
Because I'm sure that they have 2 so if it's not the first one, I'll be able to get it in the second one. It won't take me long, I've just been bombarded.
right,
So
okay.
I will do that, though.
Yeah,
And
just-
I'll shoot you guys all an email and just say it's gonna be on this,
It's going to be on this one,
on this
great.
BOCC meeting, okay.
Perfect. And then obviously after they have met if you wouldn't mind sending out another email saying,
Yes, I will
here's who it's
congratulate or
gonna be.
whatever.
So if I don't need to show up at the February meeting, let me know.
Okay. Don't even think like
Oh, no, you don't.
At this point, we'll throw the meeting back open to the public. If you have any questions, comments, snide remarks about what you've heard today. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question.
Would you mind coming up?
Oh, okay, sorry.
Thank you. State your name, your place of business.
My name is Kristen Neeson. I'm a realtor, but I also live in Crystal Paradise Estates, the subdivision behind the Crystal River Airport. And I was just wondering, Todd was talking about the different budgets that were being created and then going to approval to the BOCC. Is that just the budgets, or has this whole runway extension plan and everything already been approved by the BOCC?
The plan itself, well, Todd can speak to it better, but it's certainly something that's underway.
Correct. The a grant or state appropriations was approved a couple years ago, and we're just working off of that, and we're working the steps to move forward with the runway extension.
Okay. And then we had another question. The runway extension, we've been kind of told and heard rumors and stuff, so we just wanted to know, is it for the current planes being able to take off and land safely with the full amount of fuel? Because we were told that it was being extended because the insurances wouldn't let them take off with a full amount. Or is it being extended for larger planes to be able to come in?
A bit of both.
Okay,
So there are airplanes now that fly in that, because of the runway length, are overweight to take off under federal regulations, with full fuel and full passengers. So they take off with half tanks, fly to Ocala or someplace and fuel up there for
Right.
their journey eventually. There's also the point that if you get the runway to be at least 5,000 feet, which is another 500 feet, something like that, now you can have a slightly larger class of corporate jets available, which is then going to bring in significantly new business that's not coming into Citrus County currently.
okay.
So a little bit of both.
Yeah. Is there, so like right now you have the larger jets coming in and being able to land with the half tank. Is there going to be the opportunity for even larger jets to come in and have that half tank thing? Or is it going to be cut off to where those private jets, because we live, we're just worried about the sound, and it's quite loud now without the
Right,
extension. So
right.
we're just trying to see what kind of traffic we're going to be seeing in the future.
So a couple of things. There's a pretty severe limitation on size of
Okay.
aircraft that can, from an insurance standpoint, operate here. Many insurers will not allow an airplane, and I can't tell you exactly what the cutoff is. Certain airplanes that corporations like to use, they're still considered to be small corporate jets.
Okay.
They're not anything like a regional jet, like a 19-passenger.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're still talking corporate jets.
Okay.
And there are some that simply aren't allowed to operate here because of insurance requirements, because of that 5,000-foot limitation.
Okay.
The smaller ones that are allowed to operate here, those are the ones that would then be able to take off with full fuel, which means that they would be able to buy more fuel from Crystal Air Group, leaving that revenue here in the county. Versus having to, spend it over in
Ocala
Ocala
or
or someplace like that. And of course, then there's the additional margin of safety for everybody that operates here.
Right.
One thing too to say about the modern corporate jets that are being built, there's a significant emphasis as more and more airports become more and more noise sensitive, more and more people wanting to live next to an airport.
Yeah.
The airplanes are getting nothing but quieter and quieter as they go, as they develop new ways to minimize the sound. I mean, if you listen, my daughter, for example, lives in Tempe, Arizona, which is right on the flight path of Phoenix International. And so we either hear the airplanes take off or land all day long, all night long. And the level of sound today is so much less than the level of sound 10 years ago. It's amazing. And so the trend is to get quieter and
Quieter.
quieter engines. So ideally, things will will quiet down for you over time rather than getting more noisy.
Gotcha. And then I had another question. We occasionally will get helicopters circling over the airport late at night, and it sounds like they're going to land on our roofs. What is that?
Sheriff's Department.
Oh, okay.
I mean, yeah, it could be the sheriff's department, it could be, I don't know about, mosquito control,
Oh, gotcha.
Coast Guard, National Guard. It could just be doing some night training,
Yeah.
things, yeah.
Because sometimes it goes on for hours, and I'm like, what are they doing? But,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
James Chen from Cristero Group. I have a question for Alex. This two question is related to the two incident happened recently. One is, I think about the last week, we had a fatal accident that happened south of the Crystal River Airport. And then immediately follow that, there was a phone call from the Air Force rescue teams and from the family, and then it was try to inquire what is happening for a particular airplane in the airport. They suspect at that time that was happening in the airport. The question is, for the FBO or the operator operating on behalf of the county, what is, there's a certain responding time to be able to check it and set it to the bed and give an affirmative answer to those. That I think that's quite important for FBO to be able to address those emergency situation in a timely manner. How that will be integrated into the minimum standard. That's one question. The second question, about over a month ago, there was a serious flight over Crystal River Airport, and part of the engine bloated apart. Literally, a part of the engine had a big hole, braked it midair. So the plane made an emergency landing at the Crystal River. Nobody hurt. They just need a new engine, need a new prop, need to do all the maintenance. Now, in that situation, the owner or the future, whatever the team doing the repair, they will come in to ask for emergency repair, the long-term and emergency repair. Or that process will be cumbersome to them, or this is going to be added another layer of the inconvenience for people who already suffer from this accident. I'm raising that as a question.
Thank you.
So the first one, there is a requirement for the FBOs to have a certain response time, and I think that's primarily associated with disabled aircraft on the runway and towing capability and being able to get the airport back open. But I think that could be broadened or encompassing to include response to emergencies. It kind of already is that, so it would maybe a little tweaking of the language to allow for FAA or any other off-airport emergency responding. I think we could work with that. I will take a note of that. Okay, the second one. So the second one is centered around the aircraft that had the engine trouble that landed, emergency. They wanted to work on their own aircraft, correct? So that's exactly feeding into the emergency permit. So I think the main part of that question is, can we make sure that that process is timely? And I think that's something that we would need to work out with them. Alternatively, you just say anybody can come out when it's an emergency. I don't know. It doesn't sound. I think there probably needs to be a checks and balances on the county's behalf to make sure that they're a licensed AMPs, that they have insurance. So there's a balance. I don't think you can open the floodgates on an emergency, and I don't think you don't want it to be arduous and take 2 weeks before they can start working on it. So that's something that I'll take note of to see if we can iron out. And of course, the more that it's rehearsed and discussed, you can kind of grease the wheels. So when that occurrence does happen, you can make it as timely as possible, maybe that's the way to do it, so.
And the difficulty there, of course, would be that this aircraft makes an emergency landing in Crystal River on Christmas Eve, which happens to be a Thursday. So the county's gonna be closed on Friday, Christmas Day. They're gonna be closed on Saturday and Sunday. Do we expect this airplane operator to sit around until Monday before
Right.
he can even ask somebody if it's okay to fix his airplane? That sort of thing.
Good point, right. We'll have to table talk it out a few different ways.
Right, right.
Sounds good, thank you.
Did you have something?
No, I was just gonna piggyback, I did a while ago, but, again, to James's point, the turnaround time is gonna be important. Obviously, the county's gotta be involved with all the aspects insofar as making sure, all the i's are dotted, t's are crossed, and the timing standpoint of how much of a, and don't take this the wrong way, but how much of an imposition is it gonna be, to the FBO to be put out, so to speak, to go through this arduous process. But I am glad that James has brought that to the front. Otherwise, again, it may be waiting till the comment section. Knowing some of these things up ahead of time, I think is gonna help pave the way for additional questions to come up.
One thing that you just said that I think is important to note, this is a living, breathing document, and we're gonna do our very best now and in the comment period, but undoubtedly, as you just made me think, a year from now, that policy letter update scenario that we talked about, followed up by BOCC adoption, you're gonna have revisions over time, and things are gonna come up, and you're gonna go, you know what, we really should make that a rule, or we should change, maybe we need to ease back on that, or, so this, you're gonna have this, I foresee this conversation in different ways happening over the years through these meetings, but that's important, that's why you are here, to continually improve.
All right, and then I'd like to ask James a question in regards to the incident on 19 in Homosassa. If an aircraft goes down within a certain radius of the airport, and I'm just asking this because I don't know, is it courtesy for law enforcement to notify the local FBO in the event that they have to tow that aircraft to the airport until the FAA can arrive? Is that kind of where you were going, James? I don't know. All right, what I'm saying is, if an aircraft goes down near an FBO, all right, say this was Homosassa where it went down, all right, on Highway 19, and would the law enforcement notify you that an aircraft has gone down, and at some point they're going to need to transport that temporarily to Crystal Aero Group
Not
for
necessarily.
staging?
Yeah, I think what I was trying to address is on the airport premises itself.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because when I got the call, normally it's after an hour. Normally it's nobody was around. Otherwise, we would know that immediately. After an hour, they suspect something happened because the satellite pick up a ELT signal. They think within the accuracy of that satellite signal, it could be happening at the airport. So they needed somebody to check it to verify, which we did. Now in this case on the airport, everything's okay. So we reported it such a way. I think if there's something happened at the airport, we definitely will notify the sheriff's office. Yeah, not the other way around.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, James.
Did you have something, Charlie?
No, I don't.
Okay. Anybody else? Any board members have anything else they'd like to bring up? Our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, January 9th at 2 p.m.
Note that it's in room 280.
Sorry?
Note that it's in room 280.
Yeah, room 280 on the
Now,
second
there-
floor.
I don't know how you want to do this. There's the possibility, Kat, who handles all our IT stuff. She said that the person who's got it, the meeting that's before, she thinks they'll be done by this time. I didn't want to not have a place.
Gotcha.
But, and I don't know for sure, so it could be a last minute decision if you'd like, and we could say, hey, we can go here, or we can just proceed with 280. January and July were the two times that it's going to be in room 280, which is on the second floor.
Folks, we can wait around here until 5 minutes of 2 and then repair upstairs if you'd prefer, or we can just plan to go upstairs to begin with.
It's better than me.
You guys have a preference?
I think from a notification standpoint, because you have to publicize it, would that not pose a situation that?
Because I publicized it saying 280, since that was what.
Okay.
Then let's just
So
keep it
then
in
that's
room
what we need.
280.
Okay, that seemed easier, but I didn't know how you guys liked it here, so.
Right.
Okay.
And for Kat too, just making sure that she has enough time to set up whatever she needs to set up, so.
Right.
Correct.
To record it, yeah.
Hi, I'm Barry Simons, President EA, Chapter 1674. I just had a quick question about it, because I always notify all our chapter members that this is recorded and they can view it. Is there recording up there in that room, or should I notify them that they may not be able to see it?
No, I'm sure Kat can still record it.
Okay, so they'll still be recorded?
Yeah, because I spoke with her and she didn't mention that she couldn't, so I'm
Okay.
just assuming that
Yeah,
it'll be.
because I just want to know when I send out communication that
Right,
it's
yes.
correct.
If I find out that something different, I will let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I have to report that I will not be here January 9th. I will be in Cape Town, South Africa. So, carry on as best you can. Hopefully George will bring donuts, but I don't guarantee it.
You're not gonna Zoom?
Doubtful. I don't even know what time is it in, heck no, we may be back in the hotel by that time. I could Zoom, couldn't I? That'd be fun. We'll see. I'll let you know. But I won't be able to remotely bring the donuts. So there you have it.
If you let George know you're not gonna be here.
Have I let George know? No, I'm letting you know.
Okay.
If George were here, I would let him know. I wish everybody happy holidays. Because I'm an equal opportunity offender, I will say Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Crazy Kwanzaa, and Festivus for the rest of us.
I love that one.
Having said that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Charlie, second by Mark. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? We are adjourned.